Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Ammo Hour. Thanks to everybody who's been giving me your feedback, enjoying the episodes so far. We've got some really great guests coming up. I think every guest we've had on has been absolutely class, and I've been lucky that they've all been in my personal network. Got some guests coming up that's starting to get out with that personal relationship, and that's something I'm really excited about and looking forward to doing more of with this podcast. A bit of a weird time, I guess. The new restriction kind of roadmap out of this COVID scenario has been unveiled, and it's not really given us much clear dates up here in Scotland. It seems to be about another 2 months until I'll be back to my work. So, I mean, that means I'll be doing a lot more of this. I'll be doing a lot more of my songwriting and stuff. And obviously, it's at least nicer outside now. The nights are getting lighter. And that's certainly improved my mood. I don't know about everyone listening, but I really get affected by the dark, cold, rainy days. So I'm stoked that we're just getting a bit of sunlight now. And, you know, I guess it'll get to this point where, yeah, it's been a struggle this whole time, but, you know, we're going to be back to normality, hopefully, soon. But one thing that won't be amazing about that is we'll have a little bit less of the free time. So just striking that balance, I'm going to try and be productive with the things that are important to me and that, you know, I've been able to enjoy over this last while, but that will be limited moving forward. So doing as much demoing as I can and try and cram in as many of these as I can, because I've really enjoyed doing it. And like I say, with anything creative personally that I've ever done, if one person's listening, that's enough for me. I'm getting a lot out of this. It's not to have an army of fans or listeners. I just hope whoever is listening is enjoying it. As always, give me your feedback, give me suggestions for guests. I said on last week's episodes that I'd be looking to have a kind of friends, like a hangout version with some of my mates. And we'd be putting up kind of the subject matter that we'd be discussing ahead of that and hear your stories so we can discuss that on the podcast as well. So that's something I'm definitely going to do. Just need to kind of figure out where that's going to be. This weekend, the team I support, St Johnstone, we're in a Scottish League Cup final. So that's a big one for me. I've not had a beer since the start of January. Was just basically hitting it a bit too hard. Needed to get a wee bit healthier again. But I'm going to enjoy that this weekend. I've kind of given myself a little rule where I won't just drink for the sake of it or drink in the house. There's nothing wrong with that if you've got a cool relationship with it. I was just taking the piss a little bit. And I think obviously lockdown didn't help with that. Try and tell ourselves that we're not stressed and we're not feeling low. So we kind of mask that to get a little bit of a buzz. And I was just trying to get that buzz too much. And I know, like, you know, compared to what it could be, that's not really a big deal. But for me, as I said, it was just making me unhealthy and I wasn't really enjoying that. So I'm going to have a couple of beers and maybe buy a bottle of Prosecco. And if we win, I'll pop that. And if not, that can stay in the fridge. So yeah, I hope you're all going to be having a good weekend yourselves. This will drop on Monday morning. So hopefully my team's won the cup and you've all had a cracking weekend. So yeah. As always as well, please check this. If you're listening to this, you can watch it on YouTube. If you're watching it and you want to listen to the previous episodes as you go about your day, go on a wee walk, etc. The link tree with, you know, the signposting for where you can find this on all platforms is on our Instagram page, and that is at the Ammo Hour. It's also got a link there to the merch store. A few people have bought merch with the loyalty code I'm about to give you. That's 20% off. So it kind of covers shipping and a little bit more off that. So if you go to theammocollective.bigcartel.com, again, that link is on the Instagram page, and enter the Ammo Hour at checkout, you get 20% off your entire order. And that's just a little bit of a thank you. The actual goods came today, so we've got a bunch of them. I've shipped about 20 orders today. No huge business mogul happening here, but yeah, nice to see people are ordering shirts and hoodies. And we had probably about 4 of those were loyalty codes from listeners. So that's really cool. As I said, I'm not trying to hide numbers here. We've got about 100 listeners at the moment, and that's cool for me. That's amazing. So if we can grow that, awesome. So yeah, we've got an email address as well, theammohour@gmail.com. So if you'd like to send a voice memo, a bit of feedback, let me know how you're doing. If you want to come on the show, if you want to suggest someone to come on the show, just hit that up there and just let me know what you're thinking. This should all just be about community, about just talking, listening, and growing the kind of network that we're all in. We're all in this together in terms of COVID, and we'll probably have similar interests if you're listening to this, if you've heard about this. So I'd love to communicate with you, and also if you're listening to this, I'd love to make this as good as I can for you. So, today we're speaking with Neil Kennedy, a super talented music producer down in Southampton. I said that a bit like a Dutch guy there. He's a producer. He's down in Southampton at a studio called The Ranch, and he's recorded some awesome bands and won awards. The albums that he's recorded have won awards, and he's really, really well known in the scene, and also just a lovely, lovely guy. My band will be recording our long-awaited follow-up album with him eventually. COVID hit when we were in the middle of plans, so he'll be coming up to Scotland to do some pre-production. We'll be going down to Southampton to do a residential, something I've always wanted to do. We just obviously don't know when that's going to happen, but I've been chatting with him a lot over lockdown, sharing my demos, getting a bit of feedback, and we're kind of at the point now where we're going to start to really, we've selected the songs we're going to be putting on the album, and we're going to really start to shape them with him as a producer and us as a band. So it's a really exciting time for us. And he's just been super supportive and seems really into what we're doing, or wouldn't be taking the job. So it was great to catch up with him and find out a bit more about him, because it's been kind of one-way traffic in our conversations so far, as is always the case. It's us wanting to make our records, so he's trying to facilitate that. It was great to chat with him here and find out a bit about how he got into the thing he does, what he loves about it, and just more about him as a person. So I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Please give me a wee shout on social media or through the email or whatever. Honestly, really appreciate you listening. It means a lot. So here we go, episode 6 of the Ammo Hour. So here I am with Neil Kennedy, producer and director of Ranch Studios. How are you getting on, Neil?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. How you doing?
Yeah, okay, man. We spoke earlier in the pandemic. How are you feeling now? We're kind of a year in. It's like round 2.
A year in. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say. It's just, I think, I've been better than a lot of people. I've not had it. None of my family have had it. My work's been affected quite dramatically by it, but still managing to pay the bills and just about keep my head above water. The whole feels like everything's been on pause for me, basically. But I mean, that's still a lot better than a lot of people, so you won't hear me complaining too much.
Yeah, I think it's more the mental side of it, isn't it? Like draining. Like the first time it was a wee bit novel, and now it's a bit like, Jesus, more of this,
Yeah, where I am at the moment, because we're like trying to manage the studio so that there's only people that are there that need to be there, so on and so forth. The next week or so, there's 2 other people in the studios, and so I'm basically just at home. So I've been doing like my tax return almost for fun,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't want to rush it because I don't want to run out of stuff to do. I'm finding myself doing stuff that just, for example, I've never really been into the Marvel films, and just for some reason I've watched them all in order, just to stave off the kind of like stir craziness.
I used to have to wean myself off of like games like Football Manager and stuff, and now it's let's try and get involved in something. But I feel you there, man. So obviously a wee bit of background in terms of how we got chatting. We'd planned to record with you. Hopefully it would have been done by now, but Obviously the world's been going on fire, so we've been in kind of constant communication, working on stuff, and super excited for when that time comes.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but obviously, kind of wanted to work with you, based on like your awesome work with, critically acclaimed bands, especially Creeper, Milk Teeth, and one of our favourites, certainly in terms of recording, is the Boston Manor EP.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think Leica, in particularly, like just the sound on it, it's like so polished and melodic, but still really raw as well. Do you know? And
Yeah, it's funny. You can never predict which records people are going to really grab hold of. So records I think sound amazing that I've made and no one will listen to. I'm sat here like, what? I don't get it. And then Boston Man, given half a chance, I'd remix that Boston Man EP, given half a
yeah,
second, But I mean, I've got a lot of work off, the Boston Manor records, and they're obviously like just going bigger and bigger guns all the time. So it's
isn't
very
that
cool.
isn't that? Do you think like the whole part of even when you write a song and you think, we've talked about it with some of the demos we'd sent you, and I heard some of the stuff that you'd posted up, in the start of the first lockdown, that you'd maybe been sitting on for a while, or I don't know if you'd released it years ago, but you really released stuff. I thought it sounded great, and it was like, when you overthink it sometimes and it sounds sonically perfect, the song might not actually be that great.
Yeah,
But when you
absolutely.
just give it your passion and you're not too worried about the sonic perfection, a lot of the times that's, I feel, when you get the real energy out of a tune.
When you get the vibe, yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. A lot of the early kind of stuff that started getting me more and more work. I was definitely my objective was always like energy, urgency, impact, all those kind of things.
Hmm.
And now, like, I still feel like all the work I do, like that is still like a crux of it. But now I'm like also obsessing over like finesse
Yeah,
and like just is it enjoyable to actually sit and listen to like is it, what's the depth, what's the spatial stuff. I'm
yeah.
probably just getting more and more of a nerd as I get older, basically, and sort of more into like challenging myself to be better and better and better, which I guess is a positive, but it's not good for my hairline anyway.
Well, it's just honing your craft as well, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
the whole like 10,000 hours thing, like that's not as quick a journey as anyone would think. So I
No.
think, if this is your well, which it obviously is, if this is you forever, like you're only going to get probably more into that deep
Yeah,
hole.
no doubt. Yeah.
It will make your work much better, but will mean that you'll never stop obsessing and finding new things. It's never going to be easy for you because you care about it.
Yeah. I think that's a trend in most people I've come across in the field. There's not many other producers or engineers I meet that are blasé about stuff like that.
Yeah.
It seems to be one of the defining characteristics.
Yeah, and that's what makes people obviously want to work with it. Doing up a wee bit of reading, I was fans of those albums, but I didn't realize you'd kind of co-written on the Creeper album. Was that just like a song, or was it a few songs? Or
On the album, it's 3 songs.
awesome.
On the most recent album, it was 1. And yeah, I think I'm trying to put myself back into 2016 or whenever that was. I think early on with Creeper, I was involved with the band they were before, Our Time Down Here. And we kind of, Will and I and Ian kind of threw ourselves in quite heavily into working together and trying to like develop that a little bit. And then as Creeper came around, I think the first few EPs, I probably did have an impact on the writing of those as well. And probably most specifically things like vocal arrangements and stuff like that. And the odd guitar part and the odd bit here and there. So I think when that got picked up by the record label, there was like a little bit of this is the thing that works. Let's try and push it to the next level and try and write some songs together. And there was, I think, the 3 songs were Hiding with Boys, River Down Below, and I've forgotten the third one. I can't remember which one it is called. In my head, they didn't even have the same titles because they had working
You better
titles.
write these down. You got
I
to get
know.
the freaks for life on this.
Well, with those 3, it wasn't Winona. It was one of the other ones. But I think those Hudman Boys and River Down Below, they went really, really well. But it was quite a lot of quite hard work for the 3 of us to get it like that together. So we picked up again on album 2, but of the songs we kind of did any writing with together, only really one was kind of up to the level that we wanted it to be, and that was Born Cold on the most recent album. But at that point, their journey had moved across continents, so they were doing writing sessions with a lot of other big name people. So little old me kind of got mercilessly swept aside. No, not really. They had the opportunity to go and work with, sort of like try new experiences and kind of refine processes and all that kind of stuff that is part and parcel of developing as a band. So I think and then it came full circle back to Southampton, because I ended up doing a lot of writing with our good friend Matt Reynolds. That was he was in a band called Howard's Alias years ago. But he's just all round. He's like a really, really good musician, really good songwriter, and kind of came back full circle back to Southampton. It's like Southampton's like this black hole. Once you're in there, you're always sucked back to it.
Yeah, man. I've only visited twice on tour. We played like a wee like pub, but it was definitely like a scene pub. It was like old kind of retro games. It was all like football memorabilia.
Oh yeah.
The stage was kind of in the corner.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a cool wee place, man. Like the Southampton people were really appreciative of what we did, which is, I'm sure, what they are for every touring band. I don't think it was specific to us, but it was a really good night. I wish we'd gone more, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a weirdly good city for music. Like there's been a few bands, and not just Creeper, like Bury Tomorrow, or Southampton.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, Delays, who were like top 10 album a couple of years back, and obviously Craig David, the city's favourite son.
Listen, absolutely class, yeah.
For a relatively small city that's not it's not London centric. It's not part of the classic spots like Liverpool, Manchester, Bristol, Birmingham, London. They're the kind of like traditional hotspots. Yeah, it does okay. It holds its own, I think. So.
And do you think? Sorry, man. Were you going to finish?
No. I was just going to say. Hopefully, there's more to come as well. Like there's quite a few good bands down here at the moment. So
surely, young budding musicians and even older ones like myself, yourself, are using this time to work on stuff. So hopefully that is one good thing. When we come out of this, finally, we'll see some people with some new ideas and some demos and.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's the word. Hopefully you're really busy.
Yeah, fingers crossed on that.
No, I'm sure, man. Would you say that's kind of more your style to kind of get hands-on with the writing and stuff? Or, I'm sure there's not, a one or the other. I've worked with a few producers as well, but you do get some that are kind of back to the band, right, again, and they're really brilliant at like getting what you've got recorded and adding little like textured elements. And then there's some guys that turn around and, can I grab the guitar and like, what about this? And
I think I'm a little bit of a chameleon. I think it's because I started when I started, it was very much like I was a wannabe kind of musician. So I think early on, I like if I could get away with it, I'd grab the guitar as much as possible. And then I started working with some bands that were better musicians than me, and with this session you don't have to do anything. With this session you're a conduit. You just you're the vector for their performances. But with another session, you might well be like you say, grabbing the guitar or go again, all that kind of thing. But I think my kind of like my favourite place to be is with those bands that are like independent or on an independent label that have their own vision, but they want to put it through someone else's filter. They want someone to help them realize it and kind of like pick up bits where they could improve or add that kind of texture, add that look at the dynamics of it, try and take the kind of like wide view on the record and try and make the most of it as like as a living, breathing kind of thing. So that's kind of my favorite thing. But obviously like if you don't need that, if people don't need that, I'm not the person that's gonna be like going, it's not good enough because it's not got me on it. It's not, it's not got X. Like if I'm ultimately all about making the record that the client wants to make, and if 100%. if my job is just literally to hit record on it and just guide them, cool. Or if it's to help them write their material, cool. Whatever, basically.
Even then, you still need to be kind of like a coach, but also a psychologist on like how you coach and like reading the room, reading the individual, because some people kind of a damaged ego if you're telling them they need to do it again. Some people need pushed, or they won't give themselves, give the project enough. So, I've worked with people that, you're standing in that vocal booth like, for fuck's sake, man, like I know I nailed that. And then he still gets you to do more and more. But when you listen back, you're like, man, thank you. Like you got me to another level that I didn't really think I was going to get to, or you've layered something with all those extra things that I didn't hear, and you're just letting me try it, so.
Yeah. I think your coach analogy there is a really good one, like if you're an elite football manager and you've got Mesut Ozil and you've got, trying to think of a professional style footballer now, anyone else, they're players that need different kind of things, like you might need a player that needs nurturing and the arm around the shoulder and all the other kind of like, famous football sayings, but you might have someone that all you need to do is push them in the right direction. I can give, like, in the last couple of weeks, I had one project where it's the first time the vocalist had sung, like, literally, like, apart from in their practice room ever. He'd never done it in the studio, So I found myself in that instance. What I did was I set me and him up in the control room together with a microphone, and I just spent the whole time sat next to him, kind of like being much more hands-on and being like, okay, when you sing this bit, I need a big breath, I need this, I need this, and I need you to like focus on this, and really try and coach that kind of performance out of him, and kind of show him the ropes on how to do it. And then another time, you just, I can think of another example. Well, someone like Will from Creeper, for example, you get him in a room with a microphone, and he's such a like performer. He knows it, he'll almost get in a character to do it, and it'll be like you're watching more theatre than you are recording. Like he will do a take, and it might be pitch perfect, but it didn't have the right like ridiculous, like horror movie reference he's thought up for this particular melody or something, like, and you just kind of have to just be like, yeah, that was in key, or like make it sound more like Meatloaf. Like let's get wild. It's every kind of session has its own kind of like demands, and I think you really nailed it with that kind of idea of reading the room or being a psychologist. Like if you don't get a mark quickly and you say the wrong thing, you can really fuck it immediately.
Totally. And it's a confidence thing too. You don't want people within themselves when they're trying to make, a performance piece. But I think, we've not met in person, but we've had a good few video calls, and I think we've gauged kind of similar characters and stuff. But I'm looking forward to working with you. But just that analogy of, just their story there about the guy's first time ever singing, like, with the wrong kind of producer, that could put somebody off. It could change the course. I'm sure he'll listen to what was probably quite like straight. You weren't mincing around, you're making sure he knew the instructions, but it was obviously encouraging as well, and that's something he'll take to all his future sessions now. So it's an important thing as well. You're playing a piece in that guy's career, really.
And I don't want you to think that I get it right every time. I've definitely got it wrong in the past. I mean, if you listen to the podcast I did for a while, there's a story in there about how there's the guy with the big ego, the big bully in the band, that was saying everyone was playing shit and everyone was this and everyone was that. And then when it came to his turn, I gave a little wink to the band. I was like, don't worry, I've got this. He does his first take in it, and they're just, regardless of what it sounded like, get on the talk back. Sorry, can you do that again? A little bit less like a C-bomb. And he just started crying. Oh, no. and that was the end of that session. You can't come back from that. I thought, he wants a bit of banter, he wants a bit of this, and it just backfired horribly.
So that was obviously his lack of confidence came out as bullying because he was trying to project it away from him.
And I completely, obviously, misread it. I'm not a psychologist in my defense, but of course, I misread it, called him a four-letter word. That was the end of that relationship. So, I learned my lesson.
Yeah, but we all learn every day, different lessons. What was it that made you want to make records from the off? Was it doing your own stuff first?
Yeah, since I was a kid, it was. I think when I look back at myself as a 14-year-old or 13-year-old, I honestly must have had an ego issue. I thought I was going to be like a Renaissance man that would do everything, like write, record, perform, write films, write books, like the whole array of it. But it was something that, yeah, that from an early age I learned guitar. I think I was about 10 when I learned guitar or something, quite young. And I started writing songs when I was about 11, and obviously they were terrible. But my dad was really into it. My dad was really keen on it. He played guitar when he was a kid. He grew up near Pitlochry.
Oh
Um,
yeah, Perthshire.
yeah, yeah.
Where we're from.
So yeah, I think it was Ballinlough or something like that. He grew up, but he when he was a kid, he wanted to play guitar like the Shadows and shit like that. So he was quite keen on me playing guitar. So he like he was really really supportive of me doing that. And I think one Christmas he bought me like a 4-track tape, like a cassette recorder,
Nice.
and then I could start putting down my ideas. So I kind of got into that, and then he when he got a PC, I think I went and bought like Magic's Music Maker for a tenner or something from like CX or whatever it'd be, and started making really dodgy drum and bass on a PC or whatever. And it's just something that I just got really into and just followed that. I tried the band thing. I loved the writing. I loved the recording. I hated touring, like hard.
Really?
Yeah, just
Oh
not
wow.
for me the slightest. So yeah, I just got into recording really, and found a little space I could do it in that was cheap, and then kind of cut my teeth on some kind of demo projects, and tried to get better and tried to get better really, and still doing the same kind of thing now. I'm still spending way too much of my money on buying gear, and still spending too much of my time thinking about it and all that kind of stuff. So I guess it's me done now. That's it.
Did you was your route into it kind of starting with kind of local bands and stuff and working up, or did you go into a bigger studio as like an assistant and then get your own, and then you're in the bigger studio now as the main guy? Like,
No, it's the first one. It was the
yeah.
get the local bands and try and shape up some like local bands and kind of show that you can do a good job with that, and then you get there is like this kind of like business model that you do good work and people are going to keep coming back.
Hmm.
Not just your repeat business, but people will hear good work and want to come and work with you.
For sure, yeah.
And I think like the models changed a little bit now. There's this kind of like real proliferation of social media kind of producers, people that are like heavy on Instagram, heavy on TikTok, I don't fucking know, and YouTube and all that stuff. And that seems to be like an actual way to generate like new clients by being visible. Whereas I've always kind of come from the school of like good work will earn good work. I think. And it doesn't always, it's not like saying I deserve to get every great band because I've done a great record. It's just that kind of like natural, kind of like the Rolling Stone thing. It's just going to eventually keep kind of like, it's going to keep rolling. And in this analogy, bands are moss, I guess. I don't know, and they get stuck to the rock. I don't know. It's a terrible analogy. Anyway, yeah, that's always kind
Snowball,
of
maybe.
snowball. That's the one I'm looking for. Yeah, I've never really liked being a self-publicist. I've never really liked hustling that much. I will hustle. Like if I think a band's good, I'll reach out and try and like figure out whether we'd be a good match or whatever. But yeah, but I think if I did it again, I don't know if I'd do the same thing or whether I'd try that kind of getting in another studio and being someone's assistant. So I've done that as well. I kind of assisted for my friend years back, just helping him out on a few little bits. It's really good fun, really like illuminating. But yeah, I've always been a bit like driven to just do me.
So. I think if if you're doing something you love day to day as your job, like it's went pretty well,
Yeah, for sure.
I sometimes think like I don't kind of maybe talking about when you were a young guy and you thought you would do everything. I've been like that my whole life, but not because I think I'm good at it, just because I love so many different things.
Yeah, I think that's where my thing came from as well. I was just passionate about absolutely anything. Like I still am to some degree, but yeah, the idea of like I think when I was young, I was like, oh, I could try and write like reviews. Like the idea of trying to write a review, I'm like, fuck off.
Oh, I know. You do a couple and you're like, man, how do I use another word for like thumping drums?
Yeah, exactly.
Driving guitars. Like,
oh, God.
Just make new adjectives, Spiraling guitars. Like, what the fuck is a spiraling guitar? Do you know what I mean?
I know.
But yeah, I think like I've thought a few times because I think I'm quite good at if a friend lets me hear an idea or if I'm watching live music, I would never say like To my taste, I'm fine with it. I like what I write, but I would never say I'm a great writer. But when I hear things, I think I always hear what could make it better, and that's not an arrogant way. It's just that's the joy of collaboration, isn't it? I think,
Mm,
oh, maybe you should repeat that hook there, or
yeah,
oh, you see if you did this and that melody, like because you kind of guess because you've listened to and made enough music, you hear the melody and you guess what's coming next, what you
yeah,
think would be perfect, and sometimes it's not that. And I think that side of making records, I always thought, oh, I'd love to do that. But I'm also like pretty shit with like technical stuff and like frequencies and stuff. So when I'm doing more, you need to be that way
yeah.
inclined
I
as
think
well.
a little bit of skill set in all of them. I'm the same as you with the hearing something, and in my head I've already gone like, oh well, if I was doing this, this is what I would look to do, and blah blah blah. Yeah, I definitely have that kind of feeling when I listen to music. But maybe a few years ago, I would always think when I heard that, and if I thought it, then that was the right thing to do.
Hmm.
And if the band didn't do it, then they were wrong. Do you know what I mean? Because it was more than confidence. I think it was like maybe not arrogance, but that kind of like believe in my own hype a little bit too much. And now I think because I've now spent the last say 6 7 years working more as a producer, working more with that kind of writing thing, I've learned that my idea is not always the best one,
Hmm.
and that but by constantly kind of like throwing out ideas and kind of collaborating on ideas, you kind of do get the right one at the end.
For sure.
So I think whereas, yeah, like I say, a few years earlier, I might have been like, well, I think it's, and that's definitely the right thing to do because I'm thinking it. Whereas now
Hmm.
I'm like, I hope that by collaborating, we're going to find the right thing. I think that's the kind of, that's where I'm at now. For example, with you mentioned me putting out a song last year at the start of lockdown.
Yeah.
So I kind of just wrote that over a weekend. Um, and I actually sent the track to my friend in a band I've been working with, and I just sent it to him. I was like, "What do you think of this?" Like with no vocals, it was just a guitar, and I've been kind of humming stuff. And he actually he sent it back, but he had sung a little melody over it. And my first reaction was like, "Oh, you cheeky shit!" And then I listened to it. I was like, "Oh no, that's really fucking similar to what I was thinking." And I was like, "That's great. You know what? I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that as the start point and go." And
Brilliant.
like I say, 7 years ago, that you cheeky shit would probably have been like the kind of like thing that just stuck with me. And now it's like, no, this is cool. This is cool.
Yeah.
I'm fired up now. Yeah, I'm kind of, I want to go. I want to go.
Yeah.
And by the end of that day, I've written a song and yeah, just kind of sent it back to my pal Guy Itai. And he was like, dude, it's fucking great. And I'm like, oh, it's so cool to
Nice.
collaborate like that. So yeah, I'm really into that now, basically.
I can really relate to that because I've always just been a guy, not because I think I'm better. Like I've been blessed to be in bands. Like I got into music quite late, like 16. I was into, well, not into music, but I was into more like R&B and rap stuff and that. I think just coming from a wee council estate, like there's not a lot of like rock
Yeah.
music. Well, there certainly wasn't where we were. And then I went to high school, and as I started to get later on at high school, met friends who were into that kind of stuff and like the Battle of the Bands scene and stuff that I thought was cheesy. I then started to see like the kind of talent it took to all be playing this stuff at the same time, like the energy that they come off the crowd and stuff like
Mm,
that's amazing. So I've always been in bands with guys who had more experience than me, but I don't know if it's I've wanted to prove myself. I don't know where it comes from. I always found it very hard to let anyone have any
right.
input in my music
Right.
until kind of more recent years. Like I'm mid 30s now, so I don't know
Mm.
if it's like a young adolescent thing, a young guy trying
I
to prove
think, yeah.
yourself. And now,
It,
now I definitely like welcome. We have the only rule is, don't be offended if we say no to an idea or something like that. But bring the
yeah.
ideas.
Yeah. I think that's a very familiar place. I kind of have this thing when with clients when I kind of say I'm going to say things and I'm going to suggest things, and I don't want you to sort of you don't have to couch your language. If you tell me no or you think that's shit, honestly, it's not going to bother me in the slightest.
Yeah,
Like because I've had years of it bothering me, and now I think I get better results when you like yeah you just kind of like accept that not every idea I'm going to have the best one, but like I said, hopefully you spark ideas, and that kind of those sparks then into a fire, and then you end up with something everyone's kind of like proud of and everyone digs. So
for sure. And
yeah,
also sometimes it's about, how much you care about that idea. So the guys in my band have a hard time because I'm not a technical guy. So like I demo, I do have a wee interface and cables and stuff, but I'll still choose to demo with an acoustic guitar and the iPhone.
Yeah, I've heard it.
Just yeah, exactly. Because to me, it's like I can just get it out and let
Mm,
them hear it before I try and whittle things down, and then I listen and it's got 20 layers, and I'm like, I don't even like that. I've wasted time.
yeah.
So if they maybe say, I'm not sure about that, sometimes I'll go, right, no worries. What about this next song? Sometimes, though, if I can hear the whole symphony in my
Mm,
head, what the drums are doing, the bass, we're going to have strings, all these, I'll be like, no, guys, trust me. Can we just work on this a wee bit? And that really, it is like a sieve, isn't it? It's like the wheat from
mm,
the chaff. It's like, if you care, that's when you find out if you care enough about an idea, if someone's
yeah,
dismissing it or not. So
yeah.
it's important to have the kind of honest chats, or you would just have every idea and you would just have a lot of shit songs, really.
Yeah, yeah. I think most bands I work with kind of have that kind of thing, but there is the odd one where there's someone's ideas like just get shot down all the time,
Yeah.
and I always feel I always feel really sorry for them. But you know, I guess everyone kind of needs that.
We've, I mean, this might not translate well to a podcast conversation, but we've got this infamous one where we were on a roll of like everyone putting in great ideas, and we were in before our first album. We were sat in a practice room, and I don't know if it was just like we had that madness of being in there for like 12 hours or something, but our bassist Rob is just like hitting the open D, like drop D on his like low string, and he's like, "Oh my god, guys, I've got it!" And we went, "What have you got?" He's like, "I've got it. I've got the riff." I was like, "Fucking right, let's hear it." So we're all sitting there like bated breath, and he just goes, "Bum, bum, bum, bum," and then he starts getting really into like basses, bum, bum, bum. And we're like, "Right, what happens next?" He's like, "That's it."
Oh God.
And then, honestly, like about an hour later, he's like, "What the fuck was I thinking? Just open D for a whole song."
It is that, yeah. Like I think if you're outside of this world, you might not understand that kind of like the crazy you get.
Oh,
That
man.
just after New Year, I had a writing session with a band. So we literally just done write a song from scratch. And one of them came up with a lyric that was like, we're trying to obviously like you're doing the rhyme zone thing, trying to find the right. You want to keep it rhyming, so you're on
Yeah.
rhyme zone looking at that. And I think he said like the lyric was something like "work will set you free" or something like that. And it's like, isn't that above one of the Nazi death camps? Isn't that what was above? Like, you can't use that. And he's like, oh no, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean like that. Suddenly these like awful ideas become like coming out of people's mouths, and then you just like, oh God, no, we got to stop.
I
That's
wonder.
why.
Oh, sorry, only go,
Oh
only
no,
go.
no, I was just gonna say we instigate like you got like 3 minutes on an idea, and if it's not happening, you move on because
Yeah, no,
otherwise you
that
get
makes
there.
sense. I think there's something in our brains as humans that's like, I mean, obviously there is something where you think about something bad and you shouldn't really say it, but I think sometimes subconsciously. So my friend ran a really cool indie label for years in Glasgow. I just had like churches before there were churches, kind of on it, and some cool bands. But when they were first starting out, it was called Saraceto Records. They don't run anymore, and they came up with the typeface of like the kind
Oh
of
no.
lightning S. And Saraceto, it was like SS Record. But they didn't put it out, and they were like showing their friends, like, "You cool with this design?" And everyone was like, "Are you joking?" Didn't realize it was like Nazi memorabilia. So
Oh, it's like it's easily done.
you
Easily
need
done.
people to double check your work, that's for sure.
Well, Kiss got away with it for a few years.
Fuck, they didn't have, eh? Is there anyone that kind of either when you were young or now, I don't know if that evolves, but is there anyone that you kind of not model your game on, but you really like look up to in terms of, wow, how's he do that? Let me try and back figure it out.
Um, I don't know if I'd go to that kind of extreme with like, there's no one out there that I just kind of like obsess over. Um, like the technical aspect, like kind of like you say, kind of like reverse engineer. But there are producers out there that I kind of listen to, and I'm just thinking like, how the fuck have you done that?
Hmm.
How have you done that? Like, there's a couple in particular. Just trying to find the name of this one record. I don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
Where is it? Yeah, this record here. Frengers by Mew, and
Oh, I love
this
them.
was
Yeah,
produced by Rich Costey, who is like pretty much, if I hear a rock album, I think, God, that sounds amazing. It's Rich Costey.
yeah.
And he did the new Biffy record. And I think, although I wouldn't say as a current Biffy fan, I'm definitely an older Biffy fan.
Hmm.
But when I heard the new one, I was like, oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds really good. But yeah, Frangers, I remember listening to it for the first time, just kind of like with headphones on, like, how does it sound that bright and that crisp? But it's not knackering to listen to. It's like
Yeah.
the bottom end's enormous. It's like fucking hell. And the same with Mars Volta, the first Mars Volta record. And again, it was Rich Costey. So
Was that the Mew album with Am I Rhino?
yeah.
Jesus Christ, that is like, you can't just pick one because there's so many songs in the world on your favorite Spotify playlists and stuff. But for a song that's just got it all, exactly what you're saying, man, like it's so clean, but also really, I mean, not heavy, but heavy in its own style,
Yeah, it's hard to kind of pin down exactly how it sounds, but it sounds, to me, it sounds supernatural. Like it's it's being played by human beings with human instruments, but it sounds like a bunch of aliens just writing a rock song.
For sure.
And
the
the
vocals
production,
particularly,
yeah, and the production sounds like that as well. And this record's now like nearly 20 years old, and I still think it sounds like it's from the future.
I think so. I think that's a great way to kind of describe that, for sure. Futuristic sound.
Yeah. So Rich Costey's definitely a guy that anytime I hear something, if I think it sounds good immediately, I'm like, I bet that's Rich Costey, because he just seems to have the sound that I would love to be able to do. But maybe in a couple of years, definitely not right now. I think coming up, one of my neighbours was a guy called Peter Miles, who I'm sure you know Peter Miles. He lived like 100 yards down the road from me when I first started getting into this stuff, and he was already quite established. But we became really, really good friends and would hang out a lot, and kind of like I'd occasionally assist him, or but he became like somebody I really looked up to as like someone that knew more than me, and then eventually as like a peer, where like we kind of at the point we're both making records almost full time and working on projects we're proud of. And like Pete was he's a really good friend. He's a really good resource without sounding like too, I don't know, disconnected from it. But he was just so valuable because if you don't know Pete, he's incredibly blunt. So if you want some honest feedback,
I'll give you
Pete's the man for that, So we became great friends. We ended up like going on a holiday together a bunch, and it would be like almost like busman holidays, because we'd be sitting there chatting about compressors all day, but we'd be doing it on a beach in Cornwall or something, rather than in our lounge or whatever. So although I think sonically there's not a lot, I don't necessarily want to emulate Pete in the same way that I'd want to emulate Rich Costey. Like he was just a really big influence on me sort of coming up, I think.
It's cool. Obviously, pretty similar kind of genres. I know you've both done wide, but the kind of mainstay as well. So
Well, we've shared clients over the years, and managed to stay good buddies with it all. So
that goes back to your first point. I've only ever recorded with 3 engineers and done quite a few recordings, and the first 2 were really talented, but because they were our friends in the local scene, and they were both really great. One of them's doing it full time now, the other one's going on to other things, and then Bruce Runtoul in Glasgow, because we sought him out because of the sound he was doing. And again, it's not, none of those guys is, we're moving on to work with you because we feel we owe it to ourselves to try another sound, try another way of working. We want to go down, as we've discussed, the kind of more live sound route, because when we play, everyone says, so much heavier, like, festivals especially. So someone's not seen us before, came down because we liked the record, but, we liked that even more because it was more energy. And that's no criticism to the guys we worked with before, but we've maybe been letting ourselves be in that kind of space we've been in. So working with a stranger, even though we're meeting like these kind of ways, we can tell you we want to sound live, and you can just make sure that happens,
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
So yeah, I think it doesn't always have to be a bad reason to be swapping who you record with or
No,
any fallouts or anything like that.
no. One of my really good friends, in fact, a guy that I started the studio with, a guy called Jeff Swan, who now he mixes like Charlie XCX and people like that. Like he's in that kind of world.
Yeah.
And we were kind of chatting the other day because with COVID and this kind of scenario we've been in, we've kind of everyone I know really has lost clients to either people that are closer or in some cases in the same country. Like one of my bigger projects from last year, like I can watch them recording now at a studio somewhere else because they can't travel here. I'm watching them on Instagram, like properly bummed out. But Jeff's had the same kind of thing, and we were discussing the other day. He has this kind of like principle that just because I did the last record doesn't mean I have any right to expect the next one. Mm-hmm. I think that's it's quite hard to kind of like get over if you feel like you've done a lot of work on a project and you've developed it, and then you see them go and work somewhere else, and you can't stop yourself being upset and kind of like, why not me? Was I not good enough? Yeah, I guess it's a bit like seeing an ex or something like that,
Yeah.
But ultimately, like people do want to try different things and do want different experiences, and it's got nothing to do with. It doesn't have to have anything to do with the relationship you already had or whatever. So that's something that I still have to tell myself that quite often. Like you do get a bit emotionally invested in things, and obviously, like at the ranch, there's a couple of other engineers that are there almost full time. Like guy Lewis Johns, who works for like Rollo Tomasi and Employed to Serve and those kind of heavier band.
Yeah.
He has the same thing, like if he sees one of his clients off working with someone else, we all struggle to be like, oh, that's totally cool. We're always a bit like, oh, why not me? But like Jeff says, don't have any right to it. And you got to understand that, like, as an artist, like when I was an artist, if I was given an opportunity to do something new or different that sounded exciting, I would have done it. So you can't hold it against an artist.
It's definitely not in that scene as well. Like my job is a barber. I'm I've got my own barber thing going on, and the majority that is a service where if people like it, they usually stay. But now and again, even close friends, I'll go to football training or that, and one of my teammates will have a haircut, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So they'll be like, oh yeah, I was working away, or like I wasn't coming up your end of the, and I'm like, I know what he's, man, and I'm like, you fucking bastard. But then it's the same like my mate's coffee shop, like, so I feel that and I know that, and then my friend's got a coffee shop. I try and support him all the time. Cameo from the cat, but even now and again, I'll be like, oh, this coffee shop's closer, and then I'll walk past his shop, almost hiding the coffee. So no one's trying to be a dick. Just now and again, it's a bit convenient, or you fancy trying the other beans from that shop,
Exactly. It's absolutely spot on. But yeah, it's kind of hard sometimes. So I just rambled off on something. So
just influences and how they became people. But you still share clients and stuff as well.
So but I got this a lot with going circling back to the Creeper thing. Like their newest record was the first time that we hadn't worked together. Mm-hmm. And so initially I got when the first single came out, I got a lot of messages like, hey, did you do this? And then I'd be like, the first one was actually Born Cold, which I did do a lot of work on. So I was like, I was involved in it, but like they're doing a record with someone else. It's like it's all good. Don't worry about it. But yeah, when that came out, I did actually feel a bit like I am pretty bummed out. Like I can't kind of like I am pretty bummed out because up to that point I had like worked like tirelessly with them.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I was kicked out of the team. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I wasn't kicked out of the team. That's what I mean. It wasn't.
Of course.
There was nothing to it other than the record label like, right, we've done that. We need to try something different. Where do you want to go? Who do you want to try? There's no like, well, Neil's a dick, so let's not work with that guy again.
Yeah,
it was
exactly,
nothing.
Man.
But I couldn't stop myself being a little bit bummed, and it's embarrassing for me to kind of say it, but seeing it come out, oh, fuck. Oh well, but obviously now,
We talked about sporting analogies the first time we met and at the start of this conversation. Sports is the same, man. Sometimes you've got to shake up the team, and it's not because anyone's not performing. It's if, does the same message get repetitive? Not for a second saying your work gets repetitive, but do they put back on the band? Do they maybe not take your feedback and you're pushing because it's just like,
That's
it's our
it.
friend Neil, whereas someone new, they're trying to impress again. And
Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on. Like they're kind of like, yeah, the message gets lost. There's only so many times I can say to them, pull your socks up. This isn't good enough. You got to play that better. Or are you ready to track this? No, okay. They know they can get away with murder. Like,
of course, yeah.
like they know they can. Like,
you're a friend
absolutely.
now.
Yeah, and when you're too in there, you're too like part of it. For example, they had to do a Maida Vale session but their guitarist had left, so I ended up going and playing guitar for them and singing the harmonies because I knew the songs. But there's no like it's not like I'm in the press shots or anything like that. It's just it's just part of the team, and yeah, like shaking up the team is something that they all felt they needed to do, and now the results are out there for you to hear the difference between, I guess, their comfy shoes and their new shiny shoes kind of thing. And that isn't meant as a dick comment or anything. That's just the reality of it. Like, would I have made the same record? Undoubtedly no. Like, would it have been better? Who the fuck can possibly ever say?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
But the important thing is, like, we still have like a brilliant relationship. Like, Will and I are still super tight. Me and Ian are super tight, and it's not like the doors ever closed on that. Like, because everyone was just really cool about it. Or when they were told they were going to work with someone else, they kind of just called me up and said, "Label want us to try something else," and it was like, "Cool, all right, no worries." And there's no like animosity.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's good, man. But yeah, just one of these things in life, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly let the cat out the door, man. Then I'll just take another kind of 10, 15. They'll take your time, bro. And I'll edit this bit out, obviously. Yeah, no, yeah. Come on. You better get out now. I was really trying to just hold off there, but I'm worried he's going to pee himself or something.
I'm surprised my little cat hasn't been to say hello, actually.
Yeah.
I've got a really noisy cat. So.
Really? He's quite vocal too, but I don't think it'll pick this. Well, hopefully not.
I can hear it. So.
Yeah, I'm not going. Well, I'd love to go for super slick professionalism, but we're all at home on our dining table. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's not much else.
Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yeah, man, go for it. Of course.
So the first question is, I wanted you to tell me a bit more about your football team, because I kind of been following it just on Facebook, basically, just like keep my eye on it, and it looks fucking super cool. I keep meaning to go on and buy one of the shirts because they look awesome. They're really,
that'd
really
be
cool.
Sick. Yeah, that'd be cool. No, please do. And when we come down, eventually I'll bring some swag as well. Yeah, it was. I've just played football in teams, for years, and sometimes you just get this mix of people that they don't encourage in the right way, and it can make people's heads go down. And I think there's a lot of people I've seen who have, whether they have talent or not, but I've definitely seen a lot of wasted talent being put off because someone who was less talented but was more sure of themselves, that was their way to deflect. Kind of like the bully in the studio. Insecure about their own stuff, so they drive other people away. And as I got a wee bit older, I kind of fell out of football a bit. And then I thought to myself, I was getting in bad habits. I had nothing to keep fit for. I had nothing to be sober on a Saturday night for, which, you don't always need to be sober on a Saturday night, but just felt I was kind of caning it a wee bit too much. And had also been involved with organisations and a bit of volunteering within the community. Mix all that with just being a friendly guy about the kind of, you wouldn't call it a town here, but we're just off the centre of Glasgow. So it's kind of like a village. Denniston, the area is called. I just knew a lot of people, and I thought, I can connect the dots here. We can have like everyone walking around the street going, "Hi, how are you doing?" That because they all are involved in this shared project. So we just set up the team. We set up a commitment to kind of helping food banks. We set up a commitment to everyone being welcome, whether they made the final cut or not, in terms of combat and isolation. Obviously, this year then threw a bit of a spanner in the works because we wanted to be playing games, getting people together for kind of like hangouts after the fact and stuff. But the other hand of that is we were able to put a lot of the work into incorporating it as a charity, raising a lot of money. Obviously, we've got some big sponsors on board with Tenants as the main sponsor.
That's amazing,
Did a wee pitch for that. Took a good few months, obviously, because of their quite understandable worries with COVID and stuff like that. Got all the recruitment did, make sure we wrote, like, literally we've got a team of like 6 people who've all done fantastic work. It's been like a full-time job over lockdown. So making sure we have HR procedures in place for the players and the volunteers, making sure there's a coach, a manager, making sure that we've got processes in place if anyone has any grievances, making sure that it's all really transparent, that all the money from our sales go right into the account for the football side, which doesn't need a lot of money, and also our commitment to, you know, a few £100s minimum to the local food bank every month. And then just getting involved how we could. So litter picking, raising money through like fun runs and stuff, just getting food together from loads of donators and getting it to places across the city. So yeah, I think for what we've done in the year, I'm really, really proud. When things go back in terms of working more, we won't have as many man hours, but we will be able to do a lot more, getting people together and going and doing big events. So I think it was, in terms of setting that organisation up, it was a blessing in disguise, having a year at home. But now we've got that set up, moving forward, we just want to get back to it and actually playing some games, and people supporting us will be a way to get people together as well, you know.
Yeah, it's really cool. I read the kind of mission statement and stuff when, I think it was just after I spoke to you for the first time. We became Facebook pals, whatever. I started seeing it and thought it's really, really cool. So I'm really impressed with that. The other question was, with this kind of like podcast, is it, what are your kind of aims for that? Is it just chatting to people and sticking it out there? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I think, and I don't know how well I'm getting it across in the first couple of conversations, so hopefully I'll grow in that sense. But when I'm cutting hair, when I'm training with people, we're going and doing a bit of extra training. When I'm like, you know, setting up plans for things with music, either with a band in a van or speaking to guys like yourself and kind of sorting out projects for the future, I always find that whatever the conversation started as, it always goes into tangents of like really interesting things, whether that's like things I'm interested in, like mental health, a bit of spirituality, maybe like ancient civilization theory, like sport, you know, it just can go anywhere. And I just really thought that I gained so much from listening to podcasts that aren't focused on always, my favorite podcasts aren't always like the celeb guests. It's like ones with like Chris Ryan with Tangentially Speaking and Duncan Trussell, Family Hour, where they're speaking to just people in their life that they find are interesting, and more importantly, just good people. And I gain a lot from hearing two people with a lot of information and views, and I can take that on almost like I'm just sitting in the room joining in. And I just thought, I know a lot of really cool folks, so, you know, not so much about me, just finding out about those people and letting other people gain an insight. So, you know, like guys like yourself, your story, the talent and work you do. I've got some friends who are professional footballers. I've got loads of guys who've been touring in really good bands. I know a guy who works for NASA who lives around the corner. He's an American guy. So, you know, I'm just going to try and share some good conversations. And if people just enjoy listening in, then that's cool. So
I think like that kind of fly on the wall style, listening to two people chat is, I mean, it's so good. It's so good, especially if you're like, going back to the kind of lockdown thing, you know, I found a lot of time on my own. And I've just been listening to stuff all the time, podcasts or audiobooks or whatever. And that's where, like, this isn't me kind of punting my podcast. As soon as I went back to work, I didn't have time to do it. So I don't think it's ever going to be picked up again. But yeah, there was between, I think it was like June and August or something like that, we put out like 15 podcasts where just interviewing people from bands I work with and stuff like that. And the kind of root of that was that whenever I'm in I did want to try this, but I thought it was just way too niche. But whenever I was in the studio, if I'm, you know, you've been in the studio plenty of times, you know, there's periods where the engineer's like, packing down or editing drums or comping something, and you are basically just sat with your back to people.
Yep.
I don't really like that. I think it's I find it uncomfortable. I find it a bit weird. But what I started doing was like, right, while I'm doing this, tell me a ghost story. Like
Cool, yeah.
yeah, and they just became like that all day. That people would be chatting about, and it'd go, like you say, off on tangents, and you'd end up getting to know people quite well. And it means that if you just hit pause and turn around and chat for 10 minutes, no one thinks you're shirking your job because it's that kind of social aspect. And so that was the kind of root of that, really. Like I started doing that, and I'd get so many funny stories or good stories. I was like, I should be recording this.
Definitely.
And at the end of one session, I was like, right, I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to hit record and we'll ask a bunch of questions. But ultimately, I just want you to tell me a ghost story. But I thought ghost stories from punk bands was probably a bit niche as a podcast. So
I like that.
Fill time.
Punk rock ghouls.
Yeah.
No, I think like you've hit the nail on the head. And I gave a big elaborate answer, but really you encapsulated it in a sentence, which I totally agree with. And it makes it gives the same answer as what I'm trying to get to. We spend a lot of time on our own just now, whether that's going a walk, whether that's like doing some graphic work. There are things that I'd be doing, and you can listen to a conversation, whereas we can't go in the pub and just chill with our friends right now. So podcasts and conversations are important, and I think it's just connecting with people however you can. So like I said, I just hope someone kind of, even we always say that about the music, if one person enjoys it, just keep doing it. Like, sure. If more, that's a bonus, No,
I've really enjoyed making a podcast, although I've kind of put the brakes on it just because it was really nice to just spend a couple of hours just chatting to people, getting a bunch of people on Skype or Zoom or whatever, and just basically having a laugh and recording it. It was really, really fun. The only bit I hated was then editing it.
Yeah. I've got a couple in the bank, and I've not really. I was going to go for this. Oh yeah, man, holistic, no editing, and then I realised like years of destroying my voice. I cough a lot, so I just have to try and edit the little coughs out. But
my little mouth noises, I just became obsessed with after recording my own voice for so long. Yeah, horrible.
I'm going to try and not be too strict. No. But I think as well something that put me off doing it for a long time was the not having a studio or all the fancy gear, but the best in the world right now are just jumping on Skype, so it's a good leveler at the moment until you can maybe get some traction going.
Definitely, yeah.
So what's the name of your podcast for people listening in or watching?
It was called Content from the Ranch. We have this kind of joke where like if we saw people putting up Instagram videos where they go through what they're doing, like it's just content, isn't it? It's just content. So we started like anytime one of us did a like Instagram post, we'd be like, "Nice content, mate," kind of thing. So it just became this kind of joke that do a podcast and just call it content. And I think it's about 15 episodes, and there's some like I don't want to blow my own horn. I just mean personally. Listening to the bands talk and the artists talk, there's some really cool ones. There's a chat with a couple of the other producers. So Lewis is obviously my first victim because he works next door to me. Oz Craggs, who was in Feed the Rhino, if you remember that.
Oh man, I saw them at Heavy Fest once. I'd never heard of them, and we travelled all the way down to Heavy Fest, which I think was in Kent.
Down on the Dungeness or whatever it was.
Yeah. And they just came out and rocked it, and we were like, "Fuck me, man, that's a good band."
Yeah, Oz is a ledge. He's such
Did you record them? Yeah.
No. Oz did. That's the guy from Feed the Rhino. Oz, yeah. He's such a nice bloke, and I've only met him in the real world a few times. Whenever I've met him, I've always left people like, Oz is so cool. Like I really like Oz.
Yeah.
We ended up just having a chat for like 2 hours and just chopped it down to this thing. And there's some other people, other kind of interesting people. There's bands like Nervous and trying to think of other ones now. The Winter Passing, Cold Years. From up in Aberdeen.
Yeah. I know. I know one of the guys who used to play in a band that my friends.
Louis.
Louis, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, so that'd be Fraser and that from Grader. Yeah. So I mixed the last Grader thing.
Oh, really?
That's how I met them. Yeah.
I was good friends with Liam.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of back in the day. Not that we're not falling out or anything. Just like. Drifted away, different cities, but Liam and me hung about for a good while. He actually tattooed my chest way back when he was just starting out, but still looks great. And Yeah, I just knew Louis from that. I don't know if he'd know me. I just kind of know
I'm
Louis who
sure
he
he
is,
did.
But
Louis
yeah,
knows everyone.
great musician. Like he fits it in the most positive way. Some guys can change their genre and chip in just to be in bands. He always did it and just sounded great. I heard him in
Yeah.
pop punk bands singing. I heard his parts in Grader and then in Cold Years, and just does it well. Just
Yeah,
seamlessly fits
he's a
in.
good musician. He's got a great voice. He can shred. He's all round good chap, really. Like
Yeah,
they're really lovely to work with. They're like really really nice people. Great aware as well, obviously. And
yeah.
yeah, I'm still kind of like still got that phrase on that on my Facebook, so I still see him, see what he's up to and stuff like that. But yeah,
I really wanted to. They were looking for another guitarist at one point. I think Liam was championing me because I was chomping at the bit to like.
ah,
I'd always been like the front guy and like writing songs, and I really wanted to join a band where I could just turn up my amp, get really distorted, and just
yeah,
mosh out. But I really have a sneaking suspicion they were like, this guy's just not cool enough.
come on.
Because they all had this like proper style, and I was like skinny jeans and like, what I mean? They were all like, they had these dance moves at the shows and that, and I would just be like, banging them. They were definitely like a fashionable in their genre band.
Yeah, for sure.
They
Very
were cool.
cool.
I like
Very
them a
cool.
lot for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to ask as well, man, like, and it literally isn't so I've back engineered this question. So everyone always asks, like, what's something you would tell to your younger self? And that can sound contrived, but I love the saying, be the person that your younger self needed. And from that, I guess that question is the same. So, it doesn't need to be anything to do with your career or anything, but if you could kind of go back in time and not kind of, it doesn't mean you change the good things now. Is there any advice you would have given yourself to make things a bit better or easier along the way?
Oh God. Yeah, I'm trying to think of. There's probably about a million. There's probably some really good advice I could give to young Neil. I think one thing, like you kind of mentioned mental health earlier, and obviously that's the kind of like hot topic for like the kind of floodgates are open now, and everyone feels much
Totally,
more
man.
comfortable, kind of like talking about stuff like that. I I've been, I guess, diagnosed or whatever with an anxiety disorder. Sorry, since I was probably about 23. So yeah, like good long time now. Like not quite 20 years, but like getting towards that kind of figure. And a lot of that stems from being younger. And I think it's more along the lines of like an obsessive thing where I'll obsess about something that I've done or said or blah blah blah. Like, this is familiar to a lot of people, I'm sure, to the
Yeah.
point where it becomes like I'm rewiring my brain, so I can't think straight about it, and I just let it kind of consume me. And I think like a bit of advice about like maybe not doing that
Yeah.
early on would be good, because I kind of wonder. I sometimes wonder how much damage I've done to myself with that kind of behaviour. And although I'm a fully functioning, that mine's managed, and I'll have dips and troughs and peaks and all that kind of stuff, but I manage it. I've had it so long that I know when I need to kind of like stop or X and Y. Now I can kind of manage myself a little bit, but maybe some kind of like maybe go and talk to someone
Yeah.
before it gets too bad. Like just for
It,
whatever
it, it totally is, man. Like, we spoke about this before, and I don't mean, I'm not going to get in a political thing here. I don't mean better or worse or whatever, but like Scotland and England are different places, same as Ireland and Wales. Like, such like passionate and cultural and political ideals, everything like that is very different. But one thing that I think we do share in terms of a Britishness is, even as these floodgates are opening, I'm an advocate for like for my friends and my wife and my family. If you need anything, I'm here.
Mm.
But still, someone says, "You all right, mate?" You're like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Yeah,
And then they go, and you're back in here. So we
yeah.
really need to change that. And there's some really terrible times happening for a lot. And when it happens to young people, it's happened quite recently up here, in a small community that my wife and some friends have grown up in, and it just shakes everyone. You think, how can a
Yeah.
young person have had to deal with so much that they thought there was no way out? Surely
Yeah.
they should be the people that turn to their mum and dad and go like, I'm feeling really shit, like, can you
Mm.
help me?
I mean,
So
I never had to face anything like that personally, or even in my community. But now, on the side, my side hustle is I do a bit of lecturing at university, and obviously I'm dealing with a lot of young people there. And this year, oh, just I feel so much for them. It's just been such an awful experience for so many of them, and some of my colleagues have had students end their lives and stuff like that, and just yeah, I think you're right. That Britishness is an interesting thing. I also kind of, there's a bit of me that worries like about the commodification of mental health. Um, in that that's going to create more of a stigma. It's going to stigmatize it in a certain way. When I see things like the music industry, a record label saying something like, you should really think about your mental health. There's people that are going to support you. Some vapid fucking thing, knowing that they will take 6 months to pay the invoices of freelance people, knowing that they will exploit and their own artists and stuff. It feels hollow.
yeah, of
And
course.
kids, I think kids aren't stupid. Kids are more astute than we give them credit for. If they see Coca-Cola telling them that they need to talk to people and stuff like that, I don't think that works. It needs to be the kind of community dynamic, the family dynamic, the friendship dynamic that is that you make sure that the communication can happen there. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
No, it certainly does,
But
man. Yeah, I think sometimes like we've had people maybe say, why aren't you posting about this? Why aren't you supporting this? And it's like, I totally support that. But I think if I post that, it just looks like we're trying to get some likes. Like,
yeah,
I'm not bad on Photoshop. I could do our logo and then the logo for whatever, World Day it is. But is that correct to do that? Or should I concentrate on the people that are around me, making sure that I'm preaching that, practicing what I preach in
yeah,
that respect, which goes back to the football team.
yeah,
Rather than just like posting about it from my band, or that's effectively our brand, I would rather do like a grassroots thing that isn't getting anybody like plus points. It's just trying to help, and that
yeah.
includes myself, pouring myself into something that keeps me busy and my mind occupied. And yeah, man, I've definitely gone through as you said, peaks and troughs during this. But I can't imagine what it's like for a young person who your whole being is like. I didn't like sitting in my room when I was young. The
No,
fuck, man, I was out all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't
yeah.
have the latest computer game of that. I just wanted to kick a ball with my friends. As I got a wee bit older, I wanted to go down the park and have a wee drink of Big Beastie. Like,
Mad Dog
yeah.
2021.
And if now we're literally they're just sitting in the room. I mean, I think this is all one-way traffic. I do apologise, but
No, no, no.
I'm sometimes thinking like, come on, guys, it's not that bad. I've got a wife, I've got a house,
Yeah,
I've got an Xbox, I've got guitars through there, I've got a laptop. I can go. Some people don't have any of this, and
yeah.
it's very easy to forget it.
No, but me and my partner are in a similar kind of. We have a conversation that's very similar quite a lot about how we're just so fucking lucky. Like, we're so privileged, and I think like being aware and checking it, and then doing what you can to support either through the grassroots community football thing like you're doing, or if I mean, without being crass, like if someone's got some extra cash and they can just put some cash in a food bank, or in a
Definitely.
local charity or something like that. Like, it's not like there's less merit in doing it. Like having money shouldn't be a dirty thing if you're going to try and like do what you can. And
Of course.
it's a really tough time, really, really tough time. So going back to what I'd say to younger Neil, I think like that kind of self-punishment, and probably check your privilege like from a young age as well. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want it just to be like he had it tough, young Neil. He had it
I
fucking
know.
easy. He had it fucking easy compared to a lot of people. But there's definitely ways I'd be interested to see how my mind would have turned out if I hadn't maybe spent too long worrying about stuff.
I totally get that, man. I get the fear regularly where I've been drinking, whether
Oh
I've been
God, yeah.
drinking or not. Like sometimes I just think back to, I really do think like I was like undiagnosed ADHD, and there's like everyone in my family has dyslexia, like, and when it comes to the numbers, and I just thought like, I found all this out later in life, and I look back to like old tour videos and studio videos, and my mate, the engineer's like, Kyle, will you calm down? I'm like, acting like an idiot in front of the car now. I'm like so cringy because you mature a wee bit. I'm sure I still act like a riot sometimes, but mature a bit. But then on the other hand, you're like, well, the world's changed a bit. Like, you were trying to figure all that out, a lot of chemical imbalance here, and you didn't really, again, not like woe is me, but I just think, yeah, you can twist a knife in your own self for things you're embarrassed about or how you used to be, but look at the circumstance around it and what you're talking about there. You didn't really have a support there. You were just dealing with all that in your head, So, yeah, that's not very easy. Yeah. What's kind of coming up for you? You got any projects kind of on the tables or finishing things?
Yeah. So, managed to get some good work in between lockdowns, which was cool. So that gave me some bits to mix over Christmas time. So I've managed to keep relatively busy. I mean, we can still run the studio. We just have to kind of manage it a bit more, make sure that everything's like not just clean and tidy, but like anti-backed, and make sure there's masks and hand gel at all the entry points, make sure that people are wearing masks, all that kind of stuff. Like, we've been really hot on that, certainly since the second lockdown. I think obviously when it all relaxed, everyone kind of relaxed a bit, and that's probably why we're in the situation we are now. But yeah, since then we've been very, very, very hot on it. So we lost a lot of work when lockdown. Are we in 3 now?
I've been finding it hard to track, man.
We lost a lot of work, but so like early February, late Jan, like a lot of people postponed, moved it back and kind of stuff like that. But from mid-February, it seems like a lot of people have decided that that's going to be the mid-Feb, early March. It's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. I fucking hope they're
fingers
right.
Crossed,
Fingers crossed. And then I've got a few records in a row, some really good, fun, exciting kind of projects. I've got the guys we're talking about, Cold Year's coming back in. They're coming down to do another record.
Nice, man.
If that's common knowledge or not. Maybe don't tell anyone that. So yeah, we're looking like, so we got work up until kind of like looking at kind of May, June, even a little bit in July. So things are kind of picking up. It's weird, like traditionally your calendar's like 3 or 4 months ahead kind of thing, and now we're like much closer to like, right, what's happening in the next fortnight.
Totally, man.
Yeah,
it's crazy, like studio equipment and stuff. Like, we were talking about like how sanitized everything is in this, this current climate, and thinking, fuck me, man, some of the venues mics that you used to use.
No, you think back to some of the stuff you do and not even think about it.
Oh, crazy, man. You're like basically just like kissing like 800 singers. That mic's never been cleaned. You know what I mean?
We bought a UV box. We bought a UV box to put mics in after they've been used. So obviously you can't spray.
Yeah.
You can probably wipe safely, but I mean, moisture around a microphone is like deadly, basically. Yeah. But yeah, the pop shields is the first thing like in my head. Is like, right, I'm throwing out all of the pop shields and I'm buying new ones, and these are getting washed. And I've got metal ones and fabric ones. These ones get washed, and these ones you can spray at the end of the day because they're metal and give a good wipe down and stuff like that. But yeah, you just kind of don't think about that kind of stuff.
It's good that you actually took those steps, man. I'm sure a lot of people would be like, oh, yeah, we'll do all these steps.
Well, most of the people I know in the industry have been really on it. I don't really know no one that's taken the piss.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, which is good to hear and good to see. I think everyone's taking it pretty seriously. I did have one band turn up for a session, and we kind of met in the car park, like, right, have you guys been isolating? Yeah, we've been isolating. Says, you want to wear masks? This was in like May, okay, something like that. Do you want to wear masks? No, we could do, but we have, we've been sensible and stuff. And I was like, okay, all right, let's just get started. 5 minutes into setting up, I overheard them talk about the gig they had played the night before.
Oh,
and turns out they'd played an illegal gig that was raided by the police the night before. And he's like, how about you all fuck off? Immediately, just get out of my studio. Like,
did you tell them to?
Yeah, just.
Amazing.
Okay, that was it. Just get out.
Fuck's sake, man.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and I got a couple of messages from individuals in the band being like, I'm really embarrassed. I told the guys it was a stupid idea, that kind of thing. But Yeah,
I
that was
think
the end of that.
that's when you need to have like obviously that was just a bad luck one with you, but with me, in the barber shop, like I had two over the whole time I was able to work, counted back maybe like I don't know, multiple hundred appointments, and I had like two people say like, look, I've got to cancel my appointment because I've been given the notice that somebody I've been close to.
Right.
I had no track and trace come actually to me to say anyone had caught it. I had nobody tell me they actually had it. So that I was really proud of the people that have been using me as a business, because obviously we built up a relationship there that no one just came in and didn't tell me,
Yeah.
like Glasgow's one of the worst hit. So there would have been people, if people had it like in there, then I totally would have been notified by the track and trace. So yeah, I think it's just respect, mutual respect, and making sure people aren't endangering, because you have to shut down when you can work. That's you just missing out on thousands,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think our clients have been really, really cool about everything and really understanding. And like when it first happened, we had one band that was like, so obviously we're not sure our session can go ahead, so we need to reschedule it, but we want to pay you the full amount now because we understand that you're probably going to be struggling. Do you know, we had messages like that, and you like sit and have a little tear in your eye because you're like,
yeah,
like Jesus Christ, that's so cool. Like that's really good of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of those kind of experiences where they were like really positive, and people have been generally really, really cool. No one's taken the piss. No one's, apart from that band that got kicked out. Everyone's been dead cool. We had a few bands come and then like do a test when they got home, and just let us know that they were negative or whatever. And yeah, so like you say, it's a respect thing. No one's going to pay the money it costs to come to the studio for however long to be an arsehole.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. No, for sure. Well, I guess like we'll just keep monitoring our side as well, and try and make plans. Like we were hoping to get you up to Scotland to do some pre-production, and
I'm
then
still 100% up for that.
And so are we, man. And we'll make it cool. We'll get some footage. Well, we've never properly documented things, so if we can get from a pre-pro and down in the studio, not like intrusive, but just really relaxed, it'll be something cool to look back on. What we want to be, the best work we've done, and come and be at a place where it's residential. And yeah, just so excited to actually meet you in person, man. And work with you.
It'll be a blast. I have a feeling we could probably be chatting quite a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So listen, we'll get a chat, obviously off recording, off air, with all the boys soon, and go through some tunes and stuff, man.
Yeah, I'll give it. Yeah, I mean, off topic, but yeah, I've got some feedback to give you guys on a few bits as well. So we'll sort that out, and yeah, off air.
Shite. Last man. Well, thanks so much for your time, Neil.
It's been a pleasure, man. Great to chat.
Yeah, man. You too, brother. Right, I'll stop recording and we can have a proper bye.
Cool.
Yeah, we're talking about you.